Are you ready? Let's go!
Don't you sometimes just want to talk about everything? You know, there's days when you can just talk about anything. Need to sit back and chat about nothing at all? Nothing But Julie, coming at you with fun and creative topics and interviews.
Did you hear Julie's podcast? She's got the greatest topics.
Come join the chat about everything, anything, and nothing. So unwind and tune in to Nothing But Julie. Great topics and cool interviews with some pretty awesome people. And now, without further delay, here's Nothing But Julie.
Hi, everybody. It's Julie Schrager and Rhonda Marie, Nothing But Julie podcast. Thanks so much for joining us. Hey, Rhonda, how you doing?
Hi, Julie. I'm good. How are you?
Good. So glad to have you back. In case some of you didn't know, because I didn't really talk about it much, Rhonda was feeling a little bit ill for a short period of time, so we took a little bit of a hiatus so she can get well. And how you feeling, Rhonda?
I am feeling much better. Still pretty tired, but I'm working on adjusting my life for that.
Well, good. Glad to have you back. I missed you.
I'm glad to be back.
Having these funny podcasts where we just wind up just talking and talking, and sometimes we don't even stay on task, but that's what it's all about, and it's lots of fun. So Rhonda had a really good idea for the topic of the podcast. Why don't you tell them what it's all about?
So as you know, Julie and I are both addicted to TikTok, and I like to watch some animal videos on there. So when I wasn't feeling well, funny animal videos, cute animal videos were, bringing my spirits up a little. And I got onto dog trainer TikTok, and and I knew Julie trained dogs, and there was just so many. I have 4 dogs. We just added a new puppy, and of course one has been professionally trained to help with PTSD for my partner, and then the others are just pets. But of course, so they're, one is highly trained, and they're all getting trained. The puppy's getting trained. But there was so many opinions on how to train dogs or what skills dogs absolutely had to know. And then, of course, as soon as one dog trainer said, these are the skills your dog has to know, another one would come on and say no. So I was like, okay, well, I don't know. And then they talked about different methods of training, and some people are for shock collars, some are against them. And so I just kind of wanted to talk about that with someone who has more experience than me, and just have a conversation about that, because I feel like there's a lot of misinformation or information online that is not accurate, that maybe some people are wondering about.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of people out there that think they know what they're doing, and who knows if they have any experience, or if it's just something that they think is an appropriate way of training a dog. So I mean, there's just so many air quote dog trainers out there.
Yes,
and you just really never know what you're going to get. So what do you want to start with? So
someone talked about balanced training, and I don't know what that means.
Well, okay. So I think that most people who don't know what balanced training is, I'm not a big advocate of it. It requires more discipline, for the actual dog. I kind of shake my head whenever I hear balanced training, and it's not a new technique. It's just a newer term. I think that, I think that
this is one of those buzzwords. Then.
Yeah, it's like, when we were younger, we would call it something else, but it doesn't take away from, the actual thing that was, it's just becoming a new euphemism, I think, for training. And I don't like it, because it's more of a punitive type of a training, which no one, and even science, and I like using the word science ever since COVID, but science has shown consistently that when you use punitive techniques, that they're no more effective than like a reward based technique. And there's a lot of people that are out there that like to use this particular technique, which is more punishment, based, like I said, punitive, which I think actually causes a lot more stress and anxiety during training. And from what I remember, I think that Cesar Millan was held accountable for using these types of techniques.
Okay.
Yeah, and all it is like a scare tactic. I've seen videos on it. I'm not in agreement so much with it. It's like okay, so you take a dog and you're teaching something basic like heel. Or let's just say you're telling the dog to come. You tell the dog to come and you don't have any other reward based techniques. Dog looks at you, he doesn't come, and then you literally like grab the leash and like choke him really hard to come towards you, and you say it in such a demonizing way, and you hurt the dog.
Okay.
It's like I said, it's like a scare tactic.
So like I've trained horses in the past,
Yeah.
and one of the big problems people will have is like when their horse is out in the field, they can't catch the horse. And so, I mean, like the way that I eliminate that problem is that you go out multiple times a day and you just bring a treat with you. You get this horse to come to you, you give it the treat, you pet it, and then you let it go.
Yeah.
And so you build that like trust of,
but that's
you
just
can
it.
come
Trust.
to me. Yeah.
Yes.
But I've seen people that like once they catch the horse, then they're like yanking on it and being mean. Well, now why on earth would that animal want to come to you the next time?
I think that that's much of a learned behavior. I think that when people train that way, it's either because they don't know any better, it's what they were shown to do or grew up with it, or it's just a lazy way of getting your horse or whatever animal to do what you want them to do without taking the extra time to be more trustworthy and caring and develop a really good relationship with that animal. It's like
right.
Yeah, the thing about balanced training is it's that they some people will use a reward, but then they use these, like I said, punitive consequences. So they're showing this animal that their choices can result in something that is not going to be good for them. And that to me is just a very untrustworthy type of a technique. It's a scare tactic, and it really does not help a person bond with their animal in a way in which you should be bonding with your dog or your horse or your chicken, whatever it is.
Just whatever animal you're trying to train. So, okay, so that tells me balance training is not
when they say, I think that when they use the word balanced, I think it's because they do use a reward, but they'll use punitive types of like techniques, and it's the latter part, the punishment, that I just do not agree with whatsoever. I think that it's an easy way out.
Right, like that's just an easy way. Yeah, I mean, and like we're having trouble right now with two of our dogs. They keep stealing the chicken eggs, and and so
they're smart.
They are, and so like I fixed the coop so that the bigger one can't get in there, my yellow lab, and he's just darling and precious. And when you catch him in the act, and you're like, "What are you doing?" He just looks so distraught. I don't know how anyone could use a punitive method on him, because I mean, if you just are like, Stark, no, he acts like,
you'd be surprised at some of the tactics that people use, and it doesn't ever mean that those are right and that they're going to work. When I used to work at a nonprofit organization for dogs, I can't begin to tell you how many people would surrender their animals because they were, quote, untrainable. And
no animal is untrainable.
But that, you just said it. No animal is untrainable. It's the owners that need the training.
Yes,
I blame everything on the owners. And this one woman had a little dog who would protect her to the point where when she would have company over, they would not even be able to get even within a few feet of this woman because the dog would bark and blah, 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 protect. And that is just an unwanted, desirable behavior that really is something that is easily remedied. You just have to work on it and get the right techniques. But her husband didn't want the dog anymore, and she wound up coming to where I worked and surrendering it. And this poor baby went through 3 other homes
Oh my
because
goodness.
yeah, and I was about ready to take this dog in myself. I even said to the woman before she surrendered, I'm like, look, I know of a trainer. I couldn't do it at the time because I was working full time, but I said, I know of a trainer that would help you pro bono. Like, give it. I just think also there's some owners that have just become so lazy. They'll say to me, I think you and I discussed something like this too, like with your horses. Like someone will just be like, well, this is what I want in this period of time, and this is the
Yes.
success I want. And my first question to them is, and how much effort are you going to put into it?
Right, because like I've taken horses and I've had them for several months, and then when they go back, their behavior reverts back. But that's
Of course.
because, you're not doing what I've taught you. You're not using the same methods that I was using. So, you're not going to get the same results.
And they don't realize that if they just did once a day or a few times a week what you showed them, it's constant reinforcement and bonding. And that it's like, I think the people who get animals, they don't realize that they are like babies, that if you have a baby, you're not just going to expect it to grow up on its own and know the world and know what to do and know how to do things. No, you teach it. It's the same thing with animals. They need to be taught, and they look at us for that. They are desperate to have their owners show them what to do and how to do it and why it needs to be done. They're constantly seeking that, and it's important that animals are given that from their owners.
Yes.
It's important because I have a schnauzer that I've had for 5 years, and he still has this like fear when I take him for a walk, and I have worked with him diligently, and I have tried to break him of it. And I've done a pretty good job. I would say he still does have like maybe a quarter left where it might not ever really go away, but it's just a fear that when other people come near me, he's very social, but he will bark. And I've taught him the techniques on what he, needs to do and what I need to do. But that fear that so many other dogs have, people don't realize that it's a fear and that they have created it. They've allowed their dogs to kind of get to a point where they don't know why they're even doing it. And the dogs want direction. They need to know it's okay. They need to be looking up at their owner whenever, let's say, someone comes near them, and look for direction.
Right.
And my dog does that now.
Every time, like our dogs, because we've spent a lot of time with them and a lot of, building that relationship. And so when we teach them things, they will look to us like, you see that glance, that look up to us, like, what do I do in this situation?
And that's exactly what I mean. They literally, I don't mean just like in generalized terms, they literally look up to you. Yes. And they're looking for guidance because they need to learn, and they're always willing to please. Every dog, every animal is always willing to please, even the real toughsters.
They are. Really. Sometimes you got to get through that, but they are.
You got to break through the wall with some dogs too. And let me tell you, little schnauzers, God damn it, they have such a stubborn streak. He is so, oh my God, he's so stubborn. And so he's come a long way and he's doing much better, but he still has, like I say, fears. He still has that like he wants to bark. Not that he's afraid anymore. I think he's just more like he wants to. Like, look at me.
Yeah.
I might be small, but I'm mighty,
I think we might have that issue with our new puppy. She was not very old when we got her, but she was essentially just shoved. All their dogs were just shoved in their yard on chains or just
no.
And so there was no. She just didn't really. She's very standoffish, and she is half healer, and their personality tends to be a little more cautious, but she's very, like, how most puppies are just super exuberant, like they've not, they don't know that humans can ever be mean because they've not experienced
Yeah.
that. And so they're not standoffish, but she just kind of is. I don't think they abused them, but I think that they were just neglected. She was a little skinny and, full of
Baby.
parasites and stuff. So,
Oh,
I mean, but she's still a little apprehensive, but she's really bonded with me. And
okay.
she gets a little like growly and she barks a lot. But she like seems like she wants to protect me. And so we have to keep like assuring her that she does not need to protect me from our other dogs or the cats or anything. Like,
With something like that, I can give you a little bit of advice, a very simple technique that's worked for my older Schnauzer is a place. And you don't have to use that word, but when you give dogs, so like throughout my house, I have blankets. I have a blanket
okay,
on
so
my.
we have that as well.
Okay, and do you use it? Do you
We do.
throughout? Okay, and
So
throughout the day,
everybody has like their spot that they go to.
okay.
And of course she's in a kennel at night when we're asleep or if we leave because she's so small.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, but and I'm sure a lot of it right now is her mimicking the bigger dogs, but when they get riled up in the house or whatever, we tell them, beds, and then they go to their beds and it settles them down. And of
what
course,
about her?
she follows one of them, but she does it.
So it's one thing I've noticed, again, I can keep bringing up my Schnauzer is because Schnauzers are exceptionally smart, so smart to the point where I think that they try to act stupid because they're so smart.
Yes.
And so my parents had come over the other day and I instructed him to go to what I call it bed. So all of these, spots throughout my house, he knows when, where to go. And they came in, and prior to that, I told him to go to his bed, and he's barking like a psycho. And the whole point of him going to this place is because it's supposed to give him comfort. That is his comfort area, and he's supposed to find solace in that spot and know, like, okay, whatever's going on, this is my spot.
Right.
And he's also supposed to know, I'm the one, me, mom, I'm the one that's worrying about it, not you.
Right.
You're supposed to stand back. I hate to say stand back and stand by. Oh my God. Oh my God. Let's rephrase. No, he's supposed to know, like, I'm the one that has to worry about it. You can worry about things when I let you. Like, everything is instruction. So he's barking and barking, and I have this little can of air. It's called Dog Corrector. And it's just, I will press the button. It's just a little sound. And what it does is it corrects the behavior. I don't have it on top of him. I don't even have it quite near him. He just knows the sound. It's like clicker training in a way. And so sometimes when he gets so out of hand, I know that now he's having like almost an anxiety attack.
He needs something to break his thought process.
To distract him.
Yep.
Exactly. And so sometimes if he's not paying attention to what I want him to do, so I told my parents, I'm like, just wait here for 1 second. They came in. He's getting all nuts. I did a little and he stopped. And I walked over to him and I'm petting him as my parents came in. And I'm reinforcing him and let him know it's okay. And then when my parents were in the house for at least a good 2 minutes, and I know that Baron was kind of past that anxiety craziness, I let him,
you
move.
Release him, right? Like
I release him. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. But it's just, it's like that initial, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I don't know what to do with this anxiety or this fear or these feelings they have. Oh my God, oh my God. And then let them calm down as long as you think necessary. And then you can release them. And it's just really consistency.
We have to
always
do that.
Putting them in their place throughout the day. Like, I'll do it 4 or 5 times throughout the day. If I'm just home, I'll just make him go to his place or his bed. Just because I don't have people over my house now because of COVID, so I have to keep reinforcing it. So if I do
that skill, so we have to do that probably. Oh, it's multiple times a day. Our German Shepherd Border Collie mix. That's not a mix that I think should ever have been made. First of all, you have 2 like high energy working dogs, and so she wants a job and. And now with COVID, she's not getting to go places because we don't go anywhere. So normally, she would go with Mark for the PTSD and, help with that. But since we're not going anywhere, her job is kind of been lost. And so now she's hyper fixated on just one of our cats. And she monitors him, and she is very vigilant, and it's like she can never relax. And so we have to send her multiple times to go to that place where you don't have to worry about him. He's fine.
Right.
I mean, you would think that he is plotting a nuclear attack the way she watches him. And
I'm like visioning that right now.
Yeah. And it's very, I mean, we have 2 cats. And so people try to be helpful, and they're like, well, she may just she's not used to cats. She didn't have cats when she was a puppy. I said, but it's only one cat that she fixates on. So it's not cats in general.
Yeah.
It's just him. Maybe he's plotting our deaths. I don't know.
Oh God, no, I doubt it. But I get what you're saying.
Right. She's just obsessed with him, and that's just her. And we just have to make sure she gets enough exercise, and then, like you said, send her to her relaxing spot. So that
because they get so used to it after a certain point that it's not, they might view it as punishment, and people listening to this might view it as punishment. And people that hear some of the things I have to say might misconstrue the back end of the story, which is this is all about combating fear and anxiety, just like humans have. So what is it that you sometimes find solace in when you have anxiety? Well, sometimes it's breathing. Sometimes it's going out for a walk, trying to change your thought process, your behavioral thought process. And that it's all the same with dogs. You're trying to distract them and bring them to a happy place in their head. And when you create a place, it's not like go to your place. It's more
right.
It's more like go to your place because that's
right. Because you're going to calm down.
Yes, this is your calm place where you can go and relax, and it works. I'm telling you, it works, you should know.
Yeah, I see it work for my dogs. Another controversial thing was a trainer said that there's specific skills every dog should know. And I mean, of course, sit, stay, but then they went on to talk about, they need to stop at a threshold, and we're never feeding them anything that's not their dog food. And then another trainer, of course, made a video refuting that. And so I just wondered, as a dog trainer, would you say there are specific things that every dog has to know?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the basics for sure. And if you want to go beyond the basics, for me, my dogs, I have a puppy who's in his 6th month, and since he was 3 months, has known sit, stay, come, leave it. Wait a minute, is there another one? No, just those 4.
Okay. Yeah. But that's basically what we've been teaching our puppy, She's about 4 months old.
Yeah. Right. And then as they get older, because those things, especially with a puppy, they have to be reinforced over and over and over and over again, which is why for the last 3 months, I've been doing the same thing with him, because we have this set up in our kitchen. So I can't really explain how my kitchen looks, but where we're actually cooking is where I don't want my dogs to be, because they're small. My husband's 6'4". He could easily just step on one of them. And so from the get-go, I've been teaching my puppy not to go in there. And so it's just the word out, the word out, the word out. But my God, he will stop, and I've seen him. He'll look around to see if we're looking, and he'll sneakishly go in there. He's so funny, but he knows there are certain things.
He knows he's not supposed to. So he just checks to see if he's going to get caught.
Sometimes I'll let him get away with it. If I just want him to know, like my other dog knows, it's when we're in there.
Yes.
And my other dog is old enough to know that when we're not in there, he can, find little tidbits of food or crumbs or whatever.
Right. But
it's when we're in there. But as far as there's definitely other things besides basics. I mean, I had a chocolate lab that had a serious aggression issue, and he would lunge for you, but he would never bite you. He became very protective of me very quickly. And that's what got me into training. I hired a personal trainer. I was like 21 years old. I was still living with my parents. And I had gotten this chocolate lab after our family dog passed away. And my chocolate lab just became nuts. I did not like any of the tactics that this personal trainer taught. But then I was like, wait, how do I know? I mean, maybe he's right. Maybe I'm wrong for feeling this way. So I wound up bringing him to just regular obedience training a second time and spoke with these trainers about what the personal trainer had done. And both of them disagreed with his tactics. So I decided that's when I started going to the library and doing research. And at the time, there really wasn't a whole lot to find. I had to come up with my own stuff. And so I started with, I got a 50-foot leash where I started, and I lived in a cul-de-sac, a really, really big cul-de-sac, which was perfect. And I started teaching him from a distance. He already knew sit and stay, and he knew come, but it was more about only doing what I asked him to do when I asked him to do. And at that point in time, I used food and playtime. Because I just thought, well, why can't I use playtime as a reward? You know, he loves playing. He loves, the tug toy.
Uh-huh.
So I started with the 50-foot leash. It took him about a week to learn to come to me. And when I would tell him to stay, the only way I could teach him to come to me was by gently pulling on the leash so he would come to me. And without me having to say it anymore, he would sit and stay. So once I taught him these techniques, I then started bringing him to more social places. I was deathly scared because I thought, oh my God, lawsuit, this is gonna be really bad.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, the first few times I was mortified because of how he behaved, but he did still listen to me. But he was still, that fear, that anxiety. And I learned a technique where I would heal him in a circle. I use that technique to this day as a distraction. And I always had food with him whenever I would bring him into social settings. And he got so good that he knew that he had to no longer see what was going on outside of just my eyes. He always had to pay attention to my eyes and what I was saying to him. And he learned to do that and not learn to look away from me and be distracted and fearful and anxiety ridden. And so there are certain things that you definitely should teach your dogs, even if, or horses. I mean, I don't know about sit and stay and all that with horses, but there's definitely things that, you should teach outside of the basics, because you never know when you're going to need it.
Well, and my thought with that was too, of course, we all want to think that we'll never have to get rid of our pets, but the reality is sometimes you get put in the situation where you do have to rehome an animal. And it's been few times that I've had to do that in my life, but I think like if I had a dog that was not trained, it would be much harder to, and then and then you run that risk, like you said, of that one dog who had been in multiple homes just because they hadn't been trained.
Every single animal out there that I don't want to use the wrong words, but any dog out there that has not been trained well, that has certain things about them that could be a detriment to the owner, it does not necessarily mean that the owner taught them that behavior. It just means they didn't do anything to help with the behavior.
Right.
And unbeknownst to them, they've been allowing the behavior.
So I tell my stepdaughter when she interacts, she's used to dogs. She's had dogs her whole life. And so she understands how to interact with them. The horses are new to her, but she's never had puppies. So this is the first like puppy experience that she's had. They've always been, a year old, already knew a lot of basics, obedience training. And so I just have to remind her that every interaction she has is training the dog. She's either training them that it's okay to do something or that it's not okay, and I said, because she lets, now the puppy has an aversion to her, and I don't know if it's all kids or if she's just standoffish or what, but when my son was here, he had gotten a puppy, and the puppy of course was jumping, and Aubrey was laughing and then petting her when she would jump up on her. And I was like, you can't do that. Like, because
Right, right.
she's going to be a big dog, and, you don't want to reinforce that behavior. But, I, I mean, I know with horses, a lot of the behavior I see is where their owner has just like thought it was cute when they were a baby, not so cute when it's a 1,200-pound horse.
Well, yeah, exactly.
So I think that probably happens with dogs a lot as well.
Yeah, I think that no, I not that I think I know, and you can completely relate to this, that just because your dog is trained does not mean that you don't continue training them.
Right.
You have to be consistent. What do I mean by that? I'm not saying that you need to take a lot of time out of your day, but it's just owners really piss me off because because they do. They
No,
piss me off
I
because
completely agree.
I know you do. It's like train them for this. I will continue with what you taught them, but not all the time. And I will expect results. Well, you're an idiot because if you actually think that your dog is going to, let's say, let's say you want your dog to leave it or you want your dog to drop it. Let's say you're out and about, right? And you're in this open field and you have a dog that's trained to not run away from you and you want to play frisbee, but you haven't done it in months. Now you have these expectations of your dog coming to you with the frisbee, dropping it on a moment's notice, sitting and waiting like a good boy until you throw it and then you release him, right?
Right.
And it doesn't happen. And why? You stupid. Because it's because you're not what did you do with him yesterday? Nothing. What did you do with him last month? Nothing. But I expect him to sit and they're not human. You have to keep training them and it's their fault that they're not doing it. It takes very little time and so many people get these animals without even realizing that they have to put in the time. They just want a dog to love them, to be their companion, blah blah blah. But that's not what it's just about. You
No.
have to still train them and be consistent with it. And if you don't, then don't get a friggin' dog. Don't come to me for training asking me to do all of make wonderful progress. And I'm so incredibly proud of this dog for all this progress. And then you screw it up because now you don't have the time. It's not a magic pill. I can do whatever I can do, but if you don't keep reinforcing it, then what do you expect?
So my one dog has valley fever. So every night he gets medication. Well, he gets medication twice a day. And so,
What's valley fever?
it's something
I
that's,
think you told me
yeah,
this.
I think we've talked about it before. It's a fungus, like it's a spore
Yeah.
that's in the soil, and it's only in like the desert region of the United States. And
Mm.
so and there's no cure for it. So it just depends on how they react. So they start them off on medication for a year minimum.
Okay,
And
right,
then
right.
if it gets better, but he had lost so much weight, and his hair just looked terrible. And we took him to the vet because I was like, he is lost. Like, he started to slim down a little, and I was like, oh, that's good, because he was a little chunky, but then he very quickly got very thin. And so we took him to the
Oh
vet, and
boy.
they took an x-ray to make sure, because he's a lab, so labs are prone to like eating weird
Overweight.
things. And
Oh,
so they
sure,
did the
sure.
x-ray to make sure that he didn't have a blockage or anything. And then she took blood,
Mm.
and it took like a week to get that back. So it's valley fever. So he's just on
Okay.
a antifungal medication twice a day. And so of course
Okay.
I bought, he doesn't want to just take it, obviously. So I bought the pill things, for him. So now
Hmm.
all of the dogs, when they hear the pill bottle, they
I know what
all
you're gonna say.
come. And then it's so funny because I don't, I make them all sit or lay down, or we reinforce something,
Right.
but everybody gets a treat. And the puppy, like, I don't even think she knows what she's doing, but she
Aw.
runs in there and just sits and looks straight up at me like, I'm
Oh
ready.
my goodness. Oh my
um,
God.
yes, and but she's learning it, so,
Right. Of
but
course.
every
Of
day,
course.
so every day we reinforce like that at least twice a day with these basic things,
Right.
which is, and it's great. The puppy, I was taking my own medication the other day, and they heard the pill bottle, and here I have all four dogs just coming to sit. And I said, you know what? We've
Oh my
we've trained
God.
them with this noise now.
Well, it's like Pavlov's dog.
It is. They just
It-
immediately come and
It's true. It's true. I have my dog still has this upper respiratory thing, and we put him back on an antibiotic. And when he goes on antibiotic, I give him some goat's milk, which has tons of probiotics,
right. Yeah,
because of the
because
whole
Stark
gets.
eats yogurt twice a
Oh,
day
okay,
now
right.
because of the medication, because it causes because it's like the antifungal causes the yeast, which labs are already
Hmm.
prone to ear and skin. So
Yes.
now he eats probiotic yogurt to combat that. I
Perfect.
mean, the things we do for our animals,
I know.
it's
But you know what? Years and years ago, I didn't know about probiotics for dogs. I mean, what the hell? I didn't know about kefir and goat's milk. So I am giving him goat's milk, a little bit of goat's milk. He's only like 6 pounds, twice a day, just to maintain healthy bacteria in his gut. And I give it to him in this teeny little bowl. The second I put the bowl down on the ground, my older dog is like, "Oh, I know that sound. Goat's milk." It's the funniest thing. Like, how do you not know that I'm like not making something? How did you
right.
know
Like,
that? He literally comes running over, and I'm like, fine. And I give in because I don't care. It's just a little bit of goat's milk, and
right.
he's so cute. But it's just so funny that you said that, because they just get so used to the sounds. And like your puppy sometimes doesn't even have any idea. He's just like following the
Right.
rest of the dogs.
Well, everybody's sitting, and so if I sit, then I get to eat this treat, and I
Right.
like the treat.
Oh my God. I love it.
But
I
she's
love it.
really good. Like I said, she goes in a kennel at night, and the kennel's in our room.
Right.
And so at night we will say kennel, and she goes right in there. Like,
That's good.
and and then we give her a treat in there. But now sometimes she will go in there like multiple times a day. Like if they're in the house and I walk back to the bedroom, she'll walk back with me, and then she'll get in the kennel and then look at me like, look, I've gotten in the kennel. I'm ready for my treat.
Yeah, give me my treat. I know. I never did that with my puppy. The only time I ever do that is because I'm still in the process of training them, to be home alone. Because ever since our older dog Howard passed away, Baron, my 5-year-old Schnauzer, when we leave, he howls and he cries, and he's still doing that even with Leo, who's in his kennel as well. And so throughout the days now, because it's not like I have a shit ton to do, I've been putting Leo in his kennel and have been giving him rewards as food. And like an idiot, I saw this look on his face one night when I started doing this, like, where's my reward? And I'm like, well, I'm not giving you a reward. And then I was like, oh shit, I can't.
I've trained you.
Right. And I was like, okay, I know that I'm leaving him alone during the day, and that's when he'll get the reward. But nighttime is just to go to bed, but he doesn't see it that
Right.
way. And so I'll give him like a little teeny nugget, and that's it. But I've had to do that with the two of them. I've had to leave during the day, even if I have nothing to do,
just so that they get used to being in there.
Yes. And like Baron, he's like howling, and because I'm watching him on the video, in the camera, which I have to stop doing, but he is making Leo nuts. And then there was one time when Jeff and I went out to get some lunch, because I'm like, I need to get the hell out of this house. We go out to get some lunch. I'm watching, and he's like, you need to put that down. I'm like, well, doesn't it bother you? Why is it only bothering me? He's like, it does, but you were out.
Right.
But
so
the funny thing is that finally Leo was like, screw this, I'm going to bed. And Baron is still howling up the storm, and I can see Leo in his kennel.
And he doesn't even care anymore.
At the beginning, yeah, he howls too and is acting nutso, but then after a while, I think he just conks out because he's a baby, and Baron just keeps going and going. It's heartbreaking, but I have to be vigilant, because if I don't, then it'll just stay just as bad,
Right. And so for our bigger dogs don't go in a kennel anymore. They don't do anything, so they get to stay out. But
Yeah.
when we lived, this has been recent, but when we lived in the apartment when we first moved to Arizona, and we just had 2 dogs then, Stark had started doing that howling when we would leave them in the kennel. And living in an apartment, we were like, you can't be howling, because
Right,
this is a
right.
disturbance to other people. And so we had to do that. We had to, like, even if we had nowhere to go, every day he would have to spend a little time in there and,
Mm-hmm.
get the reward. And so I do the same thing. I like obsessively check the camera, and I'm like, oh,
I
but
know.
he's still upset. We should go back.
And I actually, and as much as I want to do that, I don't.
Right,
I
you
will
can't.
make myself, I'll put myself on a timer. And then when I come home, Baron is just, mom, mom, and I, just like when I leave, I don't even say hello to them when I come in. Like, I'll let Leo out of his crate. I'll just go, hi, Baron, and that'll be it. And I walk straight through the house into the back, and I bring them out to go to the bathroom and get that riled upness
Hmm.
out of them, mostly Baron. And I still do not say hello. I'm doing my distraction technique, because when you act all excited, hi, hi, oh my
It
God, oh my God,
hypes them
all
up. They
that's,
match your energy.
and for when you're leaving as well. So when you leave, you're gone. And
Yes.
so they're equating that to that same kind of feeling. So when you leave and you're like, I love you, bye, I love you, and you make such a big deal out of it, you don't realize you wind up giving them fear and
Yeah.
anxiety. And so I literally walk out the door. I don't even say goodbye to them. And when I come home, I don't say hello, in as much as I am dying to. I've got to wait those 5-10 minutes for them to get it out of their system, because they're going to equate all of that with fear and anxiety, and have those feelings. If you come into the house and you're very nonchalant and whatever, they're going to equate the same feeling with when you're leaving, is just being very like, okay, whatever. And it's really, really hard to do when all you want to do is pick up your babies
Yes. And you just want
or
to
bend
love
down
them
and,
and tell them you,
yes,
yeah, I mean, I have
yeah,
to fight that with myself. I also have to,
it's very hard.
we went for a hike yesterday, and just a short one, and the weather was nice. And, like, Mark likes to hike to get to the destination. And he's like, yesterday we had to go slowly because, of course, I'm not feeling well. And so that was our only thing that we
Right.
did yesterday. And we took the dogs and we took Aubrey. And that was the puppy's first time going on a hike like that. And so she was so excited at the beginning. First, she was scared and she didn't want to get out of the car. And then she was so
Oh.
excited. And so we were standing there waiting for her to calm down before we proceeded. And I mean, she did really well, but that was one thing that I had to really work on, was like, they get so excited when they get to go somewhere. And so, like,
Mm-hmm.
making them settle down, and, like, we're not getting out of the car until you're calm and you're using your brain. Uh,
And it's things like that. Like when you talk about these types of things, again, owners don't realize that them hyping up their dogs is more detrimental to the dogs, because they're now creating a worse behavior, and that's only going to have to be corrected. And it's not, there are so many things that owners do that I just can't be upset with them about, because they just don't realize it. It's just one of those things that people just don't realize at the time what they're doing, until sometimes I'll bring it up to them and say, have you done this and have you done that? And what do you do? And this, and all of a sudden you see this light bulb go off, and they're like, oh my God, I've created this. And it's just a very simple kind of like questionnaire that I have for them. But it's funny when they
but it's
realize that
them.
it's them. And I don't like to point blame, because really, I still do things that I have to catch myself, to not do, because I can see what will happen in the future, versus, let's say, my husband and my son. I mean, like, every now and then I'll be like, ooh, I shouldn't do this. But with my husband and my son, forget it. I'm like, stop. You've got to stop doing this.
Yeah, I do the same thing in our household. And they're like, yeah, but you, and I'm like, yes, I know. And I'm trying to catch that in myself, but I'm just telling you, we got to stop doing this because it's creating a situation. So what really,
Mhm.
and it was a long time ago that this happened. What got me, like, we had, when I was married to Tim, my ex-husband, he had hunting dogs. And so he had this yellow lab that was his hunting dog, and he would get so hyped up to go hunting, and he would, like, hype him up too. And then this dog would just run out the door, like as they were going to get in the truck. And he never thought anything of it because he'd have the truck open and the dog would run straight out the door and get into the truck. Well, then one day, he was going somewhere and he wasn't taking the dog, but he was in the hunting clothes. He was going to hunt something different that he didn't need the dog for. And this dog got really hyped up and ran past him out the door into the street because the car was not open, the Suburban was not open for him, and he got hit by a car and it broke his leg. You know, so that is when I started like, you know, thinking about these things a little bit more cognizantly. Because I was like, you know, if he had been trained or not so hyped up, then perhaps that could have not happened to him, you know, because he was never this, you know, he wore a cast on his leg and he had everything, but, you know, he ultimately ended up not being able to hunt anymore because of the leg. It was just, you know, he got arthritis and, you know, but so like that made me think like, what could have happened differently?
Yeah. In retrospect.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, you know, everybody thought it was so cute that he got so excited to go hunting and, you know, and then I was like, okay, well, but you know, what has that caused now?
Well, yeah. And again, it's not something that, you know, was thought about until it was too late. And sometimes that's what happens. You know, there are so many little things that can go wrong with animals that you just don't realize can turn into issues, you know?
Yeah. What was the other debate that they were having? Shock collars and bark collars.
Oh yeah. Well, okay. I'll give you my 2 cents on that. And then tell me how you feel. So if you were to ask me a question about a shock collar, even a decade ago, I'd be like, what? Never. This is it. But there have been so many improvements on shock collars. And the way in which they're being used by trainers have become much more useful. And okay, how do I say this? Okay, so it's two-sided, right? I don't dismiss the use of e-collars, especially the new e-collars, because they're not shocking the dogs. Okay, some of these new e-collars have like a low level kind of type of training. I mean, I understand there's like a social stigma with regards to an e-collar because I still have it. And if it's not used appropriately, then it could be detrimental to the dog. And there are some people that not only don't know how to use it correctly, but are unwilling to use it correctly, like getting back into what we were saying earlier about, you know, how certain people are when it comes to, you know, their dogs. They just don't realize, or sometimes they do, you know, we were talking about the balanced training. Some people are just so hell bent on punishing their dogs as a way of training. And this is another kind of tactic, I would say. For me, if I were to use an e-collar, I would never not consider it. I would definitely consider using it. I don't use e-collars with any of my dogs, as I like just to do like traditional old-fashioned training. I think that e-collars are really great for dogs who need more of like a behavior modification type of a thing. I mean, there's many dog trainers who just don't train like the correct way, and they can, you know, be using the leash or the collars the wrong way. Many of them could be using these e-collars and shocking the crap out of these dogs, that's not what you should be doing. And there's trainers that are training dogs correctly, but these new collars are more of a vibration.
Right. I was going to say, so we do have 2 e-collars.
Which ones
we
do you
have ones, they have a beep, they have a vibration, and of course you can turn them up and it can shock them.
Right.
But there is a setting where it just vibrates, and then you can just make it beep as well. So it has a remote. And what we had discovered when we were living in the apartment was, you know, we had 2 dogs, and we took them to the dog park frequently as a because they needed to run, we lived in an apartment complex, and we have a lab and then the German Shepherd Border Collie mix. So they're high energy breeds. They
Right.
needed to run. Well, they would play very rough with one another. And that was fine because they're our two dogs, but we learned that Nala, the German Shepherd Border Collie, was getting whereas if another dog wanted to join in their playing, she would either want to be kind of aggressive with them, or she wouldn't want Stark to play with another dog that way. And so she would then, growl and raise her hair up, and all of the recall methods weren't working because she was getting so worked up, that our
Right.
voices alone or anything was not doing it for her. And so when we put the collar on her and we would just vibrate it, that would get her attention back to us. And then we could
And
call her.
that's how you should, right. And that's how you should be using it. Believe it or not, if you were to put that collar on your neck, you would be able to withstand a much higher level vibration than your dog. So like, for example, there's this one collar that I actually really, really like, and it's got like 130 levels. And this man who I follow, who's a wonderful trainer, he was able to go as high as a 60 around his neck,
wow.
but for the dog he was training, it was only as high as a 5. But with dogs, you're supposed to always start at a low level and slowly work up until you find an appropriate, what they call a working level.
Right.
So and each time you give what they use the word stim, which is short for stimulation, and the neck pulsates. So this guy kept going and going and going until finally he was like, okay, this is a 60. And I was like, what? I know it's crazy. But if anything, it's more of just like a tingle, as like your foot has fallen asleep. And so people need to understand that this is the newer type of collar versus an actual shock
Right.
that you would give your dog. And it's more humane. But again, people might want to get away with really doing more harm to their dogs because the owners, are the ones that get aggravated and angry.
It was aggravating, and Mark was getting he was to the point where he's like, I don't want to take him to the dog park anymore. And so we started going to our own dog park, that was at the apartment complex, and we figured out times of day where there was nobody else in there. And so and of course we didn't put the collars on our necks, but we both put them on our hands and wrists and felt, we felt them, so we knew what those levels felt like. And so we started.
But again, don't forget, you
right,
can go at a much higher level than a dog.
We never had to even go past the very first level, so that just tiniest of tingle with her. But we started off at our own dog park, and when they would start to play rough, so we were just trying to kind of curb that behavior altogether. And then we would just try to call her off. We try to, stop them with just calling out to them. And then when they didn't, we would beep the collar and then go up as necessary. But I mean, we never really, maybe one time we had to go up from the vibrate with her. And then then of course we had to go to the dog park with other dogs, because training in isolation is never going to work. They have to go, and people gave us some of the dirtiest looks
because they're ignorant.
But
they're ignorant. They don't know.
We're trying to train her out of a situation, a behavior that she's developed.
They should be praising you, but they're ignorant. They don't understand what it is that you're doing. You don't owe anyone an explanation. They're the ones that need to do the research. I never judge anybody. Well, that's not true. But I don't judge. I don't judge people. If I saw a shock collar on a dog, the first thing I would think of is, I wonder what level that dog is at. How appropriate, is the owner using this dog, this appropriate. How is this dog owner using this collar on the dog? What's it for? So what I said earlier was, it's not a technique that anyone should ever use when starting to train a dog. And for you were using it for behavior modification, which is a huge alternative. For Baron, I did not use the e-collar. I started to use a prong collar. And I will tell you, it turned around his obedience training, in as much as he would then start always looking at me and looking to
Right.
me for
And that
direction.
was basically the point of when we got the e-collars. She had stopped, like we could try to stop her behavior or call her to us and distract her. And she had started to just completely ignore us while we were out at the dog parks. And then she
Yeah.
would just continue doing what she wanted. So she wasn't looking to us anymore for direction.
Yeah. And it's at that point where sometimes, as an owner, you need to decide, okay, so what's the next step?
Right.
What can
And
I do
that's
to
where
help?
we went to. We did a lot of research to find which ones we wanted. And so we put it on her, and she hasn't had to use it since. Now we can go to a dog park and she's fine. She doesn't have to wear it. She is looking to us again. Like, if they start to play like that, she'll immediately look to us, and we're like, you're not supposed to. So stop it now.
Exactly. No, I get that. And but it's just like I said before, I know you won't, but these collars can be
Yes.
abused and used by owners and trainers as a quick and easy way to train a dog rather than training them traditionally. And for me, if I have a dog that I have to train and I'm trying to use traditional methods, and no matter what I do, there was this one dog I was training. He was a German Shepherd, and he was actually he was actually trained in my neighborhood by the owner to actually, be like a killer dog.
Oh,
Like and my son was really, really good friends with their son. And so I was like, you are not going to this house. But apparently the dog was okay in the house as long as he knew who the person was. I would see this dog out and he would just be like in attack mode. So they called on me to help kind of reverse what they had done. And let me tell you, it was probably the most difficult thing that I ever had to do because, first of all, he's a German Shepherd. And he was trained since he was a baby, and he was maybe 6. So
it's a
he was
while.
used to,
Yeah.
yeah. So one of the things that I had to do, and again, I've never used an e-collar, but at the time it took quite a few visits for me to kind of get him used to, being with me and knowing that, like, hey, you've got to listen to me. And eventually I was able to break him of the habit, but he went right back into his old ways because the owners would not bring him outside and walk him around and socialize him in the new way that I taught him. And it was so upsetting to me because they wound up putting him down when he was about 10.
Because
10.
of the behavior.
I'm like, now? You're putting him down now? Like, what? And I was irate. I remember being like, I had that angry upsetness.
Mm-hmm.
I had two different emotions. And I was mostly pissed because all you had to do was come home from work and take the dog for a half an hour walk and just reinforce what I taught, and he would have been fine. But they wanted what I taught him to just
Yeah.
be it. And they would never have to do anything again. And then my neighbor across the street, he had a dog who would bark at everyone. And it took like maybe, for me, I think, what was it, like 3 sessions, maybe 4? And every single day they are outside taking him for a walk. And I know this because I'm either biking or I'm walking my dog. So I'm always seeing them. And I love it. And this dog is wonderful, but they're always out with them and always her and always reinforcing what they were taught. And I'm like, yes,
Right. Because,
to the point where they don't even have to keep doing it, because they've been doing it so much, but they wanted to walk. They wanted a companion when they were walking. They
right, that's
wanted
why they got
to
the
give her
dog.
exercise.
Like, that's why
Duh.
we get
I
them.
know.
And, like yesterday when we were going hiking, like we were like, Mark was like, should we take the dogs? And I was like, yeah, because, that's why we have them. We don't want to just leave the puppy in the kennel and then the dog's in the house, and we go out and enjoy a beautiful day and walk through the scenery.
Exactly.
And he was like, well, it's going to be difficult, with the extra dog. And I was like, yeah, but, then we shouldn't have gotten her. Like, and he was like, you're right. If you didn't want to do this with your dog, then you shouldn't have gotten them.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I do. I think that it's it becomes a lazy attitude when owners don't do with their dogs what they're supposed to do. And even if you want to just do the very basics, do it. You know, I love when people like post on Facebook, like there's this person, I'm not going to say the name, posted on Facebook how their dog ate like all of this crap around their house. And the first thing, and it's a puppy. And all I kept thinking of is, why is your dog getting full reign of your house?
Yeah.
It's the first thing I thought of. And all you do is hear the guy going, what did you do? What did you do? Thinking it's like really cute. And I'm like, no, what did you do?
Yeah, what did you do?
Stupid expletive.
The other day, Aubrey asked, she asked if she could take the puppy into her room with her older dog, because the puppy, like I said, is very standoffish of her, and so she's trying to like, and I said, yes, but you have to watch her because you have shoes and toys and stuff, and if she chews that up, it's not her fault, because she's 4 months old, and you know, she's looking for things to chew. You know, and so everyone always asks, because I have my yellow lab, and they said, how much stuff did he chew up when he was little? And I said, he didn't. He would grab a shoe, and I would take it from him, and I would hand him an appropriate thing that he could have to chew on. And I said, so he figured out very quickly, like, this is mine and I can chew on it, and this is not mine. I said, and when I wasn't home, he was in his kennel. And if I wasn't able to watch him, you know, like I was busy, he was in an area where he could not do any harm. So I said, he didn't chew up anything, and they're just amazed. And I'm like, it's really not that
because
difficult.
They're stupid. People are stupid. Can I just tell you, I'm praising you that you knew to do that. It is such an easy tactic or technique. And so many people who are dog owners, they just don't realize it. Like if you're a puppy, I have a puppy, you have a puppy. He was teething and still is teething and biting on this, biting on that. Guess what? A quick no. You don't even have to say that sometimes, but you know, just to let him know, no, and then replacing it with a cheese stick or whatever it is.
This is what you can
Here
have.
you go. Exactly. And so when I remember was it you had it? Oh, I don't even remember. About what, maybe it was on your question list. What age is it appropriate to start? I have, the second I got my puppy, I started with him because I had no choice. He was biting everything and I had to replace it. And you don't realize that that's actually a training mechanism. It's not like you stay or anything, but you're already showing the puppy between right and wrong, what he can and can't do, and that you're the one who's in control. You're the master. So he has to come through you in order to get things done. So, no, you shouldn't be chewing on that shoelace. This is what you should be chewing on. Oh, thank you, master. I hate using that word. It's the only thing I can think of right now. But thank you, person I should be looking up to. Okay, I see. And they become grateful to being led in the right direction. They need to know how to behave. And they're so thirsty for this knowledge that it should be a really great feeling and honor for most people to know that this is something that the dogs want, and they want it from you. They're looking at you. It's like, wouldn't it make you feel good to know that the child that you raised looks up to you, and then you find out why, and they say, oh, because, you know, they challenged me, or they always helped me, you know, to figure out things, and I've learned on my own how to do that. Well, it's the same thing with a dog, not to compare it to a human, but they look at you for direction.
Well, yeah, I mean,
and that should be a good feeling for every owner.
I think so too.
To want to do
that your dog trusts you and looks to you for direction. I see so many people that are, they have like their dogs, and they think that putting them in the kennel is mean. And so I have, you know, I see people on Facebook all the time, and they've never owned a dog, and they've just gotten a puppy, and I say, okay, well, like, make sure you get a kennel, you know, like kennel training is going to be your best friend for, like, you know, potty training and just making sure they don't get themselves in trouble and keeping them safe. And they're like, oh, but it's so mean to lock them in the kennel.
Well, of course they look at it that way, but it's kind of like what I said earlier about place. People might think that it's a punishment. No, this is
Right.
me trying to teach my dog. This is his comfort area, just like the kennel. This is not punishment. This is where you're going to seek comfort. And this is a very important thing for a dog. They need to have that comforting, fearless, anxiety less, place. They all need it. And it is extremely important because otherwise they could really harm themselves.
I try to approach it from that way sometimes. Like your dog can really harm themselves. They could eat something they're not
Mhm.
supposed to. They can,
Think about that. That's something that you should say. Think about what could happen if your dog, and that's what I was just saying about this person who took a picture and a video and put it on Facebook of the puppy eating God knows how many things and was like, "What did you do?" No, you screwed up. You don't have your dog in a crate, and God forbid it got into something that it shouldn't have gotten into. What are you going to do? You're going to be angry at the dog? You're the owner of a puppy. Like, what is wrong with you? Of course, putting them in even like I have for my puppy, I have a pen, but it's attached to a kennel.
we have one of those
And
as
then
well.
okay,
Hmm.
and then I have another kennel in my bedroom. The kennel in his pen, he started using as a potty. So he would go in there and he would pee. So it has literally been off limits
Right.
for a while. But last week, when I went out with my parents, I put him in that kennel because I don't know. I know that he's so used to the kennel in our bedroom, but I thought maybe if I put him in the kennel where his pen is that he's so used to frequenting, it might be better. And Baron, I have to kind of lock him into more of a confined space when Leo, the puppy, is in the bedroom. So the pen and the kennel is a more open area. So I was like, oh, let me try this. Hopefully he won't pee, and he didn't. But I put like a blanket over the kennel just to kind of make it feel more
Yeah.
secure for him and closed in instead of like being able to see like everything. And he did very well. So I'm like, okay, during the day I'll put him in there, but he did not pee. But then I'm like, I'll leave it open. Let's see what happens. What does he do? He goes in there and he pees. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, you're peeing when I'm here, but when I'm
Right.
gone,
You're
because he
not.
knows, oh, I can pee and walk away. Well, then, of course, I was like, you know what? I'm going to keep him in the crate with the pee.
That
But then I was like, I know that's something I should have done, but then I was like, no, I'm not going to do that.
It's hard to do that. Like it's hard for me to do that because sometimes if they do walk in it or lay in it, now I have to bathe them. Um,
Right.
and because
And I
right,
did. I
because they
wound
get on
up
the
bathing
couch
him.
and on the bed and like I don't want a
I
piss covered
know.
dog on there. But I know what you're saying. Like it's better because then they learn like if I pee
But
in my
it's so weird.
area, now it's in my
Well, yeah,
area.
of course. And they never do. But that's what's weird is that he's not viewing that kennel as his area, which is why I said to myself, okay, I need to start putting him in there more often and locking him in there when I leave. So he does now know it's his area. And I feel like the more he gets used to being in there, I could eventually keep it open and he'll just lay in there, not pee.
Right.
But it's such a weird thing that he started doing, we got this cute little like cat tunnel for him and we had to get rid of it because all he would do was go in there and pee.
Do you think that's because I've noticed like okay we had it rained here and so we have a bunch of old towels that because there's no grass really in Arizona so their paws get very muddy when they go outside and so I have old towels that I can lay like inside the door
Right.
so we can dry their paws off when they come in. So it had rained and we had those towels at both the doors so that they could go and the puppy would go over there. Her name is Ruby. So Ruby would go over there and pee on the towel because I
Mm-hmm.
think she was like, oh, well, like it's not on the floor and it just gets soaked right up. And she
Mm-hmm.
thought it was just wonderful and like proud of
Yeah.
herself that she discovered that, like that's almost what it seemed like.
Yeah, in a case like that, you need to start taking the towels
Yeah,
away.
that's what we've had to do. But I mean,
I mean,
it's like,
sometimes I know, and then you're like, I don't want him to be on the hard floor. But honestly, if they pee, again, a quick, swift no, pick them up, bring them out to their spot. And you keep doing that. And eventually they'll stop peeing on there. And you need to get rid of that particular towel that has the urine smell and anything that has urine on it. And the more you take it away and you keep bringing them out, they get these crazy little habits, but that's just it. It's just a habit. It doesn't mean that it's something that's going to last. Sometimes, if I have, I didn't realize when the last time was when I took my puppy out. Sometimes he will still pee in his pen. He's still just a baby, but
right.
I also look at that as being my fault.
See,
I mean, he's not.
That's how I look at it because she's 4 months old, and sometimes
Right.
I'm busy, like I'll be, and I like, especially if I start reading, like if I'm,
Right.
and so I don't realize, and then I look and I say, oh no, like I should have taken her out already. That was my fault, like.
And they're not at the age where they can tell you yet. I mean, with Baron, my older schnauzer, I have no idea how he learned this on his own, but we trained him the same way as we're training Leo with going to the bathroom. And they're both so incredibly smart. They know where they need to go, but it's just a matter of neither one of them telling us. Well, as we slowly started to let Baron have more free reign of the house, he would either sit by our sliding glass doors in the back of the house, or he would just paw at it. And I'm like, I never taught him this. Like, that was like the next thing I was going to teach him. And he actually did it on his own, which I thought was incredibly clever. So now when I give Leo, I'm using, again, air quotes, free reign is basically me having gates up over here and over there.
And you have a very it's the same in our house. Like, it's the baby gates are up everywhere.
It's the baby gates. But he's now, because like you have 3 other dogs, I have 1. He is learning from Baron. The other day I was cooking and Baron was clawing at the door. And then I see little Leo go, and I'm like, oh my God, like it's just one other thing I don't have to teach them. And I've actually told some owners who I trained, you can actually get, those bells, the long thing of bells that you can like, and train them to just, paw at the bell to let it's like, signaling, hey, I have to go out. And that works a lot, especially if you don't want to have like scratch marks on your glass like I do. But it's just a great technique to use, when you want to train your dogs to let that they have to go out.
Stark was one of the hardest dogs to potty train that I've ever experienced. He would pee on the couch. He would just, yes, he was terrible. And I mean, so he was just very difficult with that. That was one of his more difficult things. But now he will come to you, whine, and then walk to the door. Like he will come and get you and lead you, tell you. So none of the other dogs do that, but he will very much tell you, like, hey, I have to go out. And
he figured it out.
I didn't teach him that.
Right.
He just did it. But I noticed that the puppy will mimic him. Like, she will come and she will bark at me. She growls at me a lot, but she's like, I feel like she's just a vocal dog. And so she'll come over and she'll like bark and growl and then she'll run away. And so I let her out, and I mean, I don't know if she needs to go to the bathroom or if she just wants to go out and play, but she's learning it.
What? And there are definitely some things about Baron that I do not want Leo to do that I'm starting to see. Like Baron, if he hears a noise, a certain type of noise, it sounds really weird, but it's a certain kind of noise. He will have that fear bark, that, oh my God, like he just woke up kind of. And then all of a sudden Leo's like, and I'm like, oh, hell no.
Right.
Hell no. And that's when I immediately say, to Baron, go to your bed, go to your bed. Not only because I want him to learn that he shouldn't be barking every time he hears a noise, and he doesn't. He's actually gotten much better. Him to have that fear, that horrible anxiety that a dog can get. And I don't want Leo to start. Leo is in his pen. So first I told Baron to go to his bed. And then with Leo, I just walked over to him and I just said no to him. And he kept going. And I got into his pen and I said no. And he went, like he knew what I was saying because he just made this kind of like barky, kind of sad noise and he stopped. I don't like using the word no, but it actually really works with him. I instead of saying no bark or using the air corrector, or some people might grab the muzzle. I have not taught him place yet. His pen is his place. And I haven't taught him down. So right now that's all I have to go on. But in like another month, I'm going to be adding more things, which is going to be bed and down, which is going to then help calm him down when it comes to certain things. But I'm hoping he doesn't start the whole schnauzer barking because, oh God, that's just a whole. And like I said, Baron's gotten much better. And the great thing about training Leo is that I also train Baron with him. So I'm still constantly reinforcing on top of when I take Baron out for walks and stuff like that. So, and it's so cute watching two schnauzers do like the same thing simultaneously. Like I tell them to sit and they both sit exactly at the same time. I tell them to come. I mean, it's just, oh my God, I can't. They're so adorable. Anyway, were there any other things you wanted to discuss? All right, good. Well, yeah, we definitely covered a lot. I know there was something about emotional support dogs, which we can get on with at another time. But I
just wondered because, like obviously we do have a dog that has been trained to support someone, a combat veteran. And
was she trained by someone else for PTSD?
Well trained. And
was it supported by
went through
veterans?
A program with her.
Yeah. Good.
It was. So it's supported by the VA. And so he went through an actual program and, worked with her, and they helped the dog.
I was going to, because that has always been something
to the specific
I've wanted
person, like for
to
what
do.
Their needs are.
And I've done some research, but I'm just curious, was the dog already trained, but then they had to, for lack of a better word, train your boyfriend to okay.
So I think they can do it either way. He already had the dog, and so he got her as a puppy, and then they went through basic obedience training and stuff, and then after she was like just basically obedience trained, walked and sat and did all those things, then they went through that program to actually like train them, and so they train them as a team. And I think they can do it either way, but he just already had the dog that he wanted
program
to use for it. I don't know how long that took. It took a while. He was still in North Carolina when he did that. He did that right as he got out of.
It's so interesting to me how
so he was still in when they started.
There are certain dogs I know that are chosen to be emotional support dogs or service dogs. Also because, there are certain dogs that can detect things that other dogs just can't. But I hate to say TikTok, but I've got to tell you, I was watching TikTok the other day, and there was a girl who was at an airport, and I don't know who was recording her, maybe her mother, but I was just looking at her, and she was just sitting there. I did not see her hands move, her fingers, her feet. I kept watching it over and over again to see just a little twitch, something to indicate to the dog that she's about to have an anxiety attack. And there, I am telling you, there was nothing. And all of a sudden, this dog knew what it had to do. And I'm like, but there's nothing here. Like, what? How did this dog know? Was it maybe her breathing? Maybe he could hear her heartbeat faster. It was so intriguing to me. And I was looking, of course, at the comment, and I didn't see anything in there. And I just thought to myself, it's so fascinating to me how these dogs are trained to learn something that I can't even see. Like, how did this dog know?
I have a friend who she's type 1 diabetic, and she is severe. So she has a dog that detects when her blood sugar is low.
Maybe it's a certain smell. Like maybe knows.
I don't know. I think so. I think that's with the case with the
You know
diabetes,
what?
it's a smell. And so he
There
alerts
was
her, like, after
you
certain
had sent
alerts.
me these
It's very
questions, and I
interesting to
had
me.
sent you a text asking you if ESD was electronic storage detection, because there is something. And the reason why I just wanted to mention that real quick is because there are dogs now that actually can sniff out like thumb drives, because these particular devices have a certain chemical in it that the dogs are trained to smell. And I wonder if there's like a certain pheromone or something with your friend who has type 1 diabetes, or something that happens with anxiety, maybe a sweat that they
Maybe, and then it's like
it's
a
isn't it
smell
fascinating? And
that we
there
can't
was one
smell as
other
humans,
thing I
but
wanted to tell
dogs
you. This man
can
who
detect it. It is.
lost both of his legs in I don't know where, he has a baby, and he, I think monthly, has been taking, I don't know, some kind of rag or whatever, and wiping the baby every month as the baby grows, and saving these rags and giving them to the dog to smell in the event that anything were to happen to his little girl, if she would be kidnapped or whatever. And I thought it was so interesting that he was doing that. Like, instead of thinking, oh, why can't you just get something, from the laundry? It's an actual training thing. It's a training exercise. You have to train the dog to have all these different scents. So then,
Ah,
let's say they need to, God forbid, track down his little girl. If something happens, he would already be ready, this dog, with all the different scents
right.
that he would know, like a bloodhound. I thought it was very interesting that, and sad that this is what life has come to because of, and that's something we need to touch on with uh I can't think of what it's called, but it's actual kidnapping. There are people that might go out to lunch and talking about their daughters or their sons, and people strike up conversations with them about their children because sex trafficking.
Oh,
That's something we should, yeah, you know what? We should talk about
right.
that and
Because yeah, we should talk
staycations.
about that.
Maybe
Just
that,
like
maybe we can do,
how they
let's,
say not to.
next week, why don't we, if you're feeling up to it, let's do
Yes.
staycations. And then maybe the following one we can do about this whole sex trafficking thing, because I was not very aware of it up until maybe a year ago. And that's when I just could not believe what people, but normal looking everyday people, what they're doing to try and get these kids away from their parents. And some parents just have no idea what's going on. And this one parent who was at lunch caught on to what they were doing and called the cops. Like, she knew what they were doing. And I was like, how in the hell? Like, I never would have thought of that. It's such a scary world. It's just, it's insane. Well, anyway, I'm so happy we were able to do this. We went a little bit
It
over.
is.
So
It is.
I really want you very quickly to tell
Me too.
everybody not only how they can touch base with you, but please let them know your newest venture.
Oh, so this is something I've been working on for several years, and I got I got the opportunity to join a coaching group to help people who want to do this, and so they have encouraged me to just go ahead and get started. I've been working on becoming a mental health and mindset coach for a couple of years now, and I always I suffer from imposter syndrome, so I think like I need to learn more before I can possibly do this, and I got the opportunity to join. Like, they specifically help people with this type of business, and they said, you gotta just do it. You gotta stop. You like, never stop learning, obviously, but you gotta do it. And so I kind of preliminarily started it, and so I'm super excited about that. And that's just on my Accidentally Beautiful Life, and I just started talking about it on my regular socials because
I know,
I didn't
right?
think I could add any more social media to my life. I did not think I could create yet another account to be separate for this. So it's just
Oh, I'm
all
so
at the
excited
Rhonda
for you.
Marie
It's always nice
on
to
pretty much every
start new
platform.
ventures, It's exciting. Perfect.
It is.
You know
It
what?
is.
This
And it's
is
something that
why
I've been
I
wanting
think
to do for
that
years.
it was, and I hope no one looks at this the wrong way, but for some people, it's been a blessing in disguise having this quarantine type pandemic that we've all kind of been forced into, because it's helped us to really look into ourselves and really dig deep and see all of these things that we actually are capable of doing and helping others, which is just wonderful. So kudos to you. I'm very happy for you. I know this is going to work out great. I know you're going to be great at it. And for me, it's just Nothing But Julie everywhere: Facebook, Instagram. It's my podcast. And I have my blog, which is, I always get confused, nothingbutjulie.wordpress.com. I've only done a few. I'm getting better. I just, every time I think about what I'm going to write about, I'm like, no, I don't want to write about this, but then I always do. So anyway, all right, guys, listen, it's on Thursdays, Nothing But Julie, and with Rhonda, Thursday Thoughts. I hope that you stay tuned. Enjoy your weekend. Rhonda, I'm so happy we were able to finally get back together with each other. Enjoy your weekend and don't overdo it.
Me too.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
You too.